Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever felt like there are two very different versions of yourself? One you show the world, polished and proper, and another maybe a little more untamed, reserved for your secret thoughts. Today we're plunging into a classic tale that explores exactly that profound duality. Robert Louis Stevenson's The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And this isn't just some gothic horror story. It's a really chilling, timeless psychological exploration, looking at human nature, identity, and the perilous consequences of unchecked desires.
Right, and what's truly fascinating here is how Stevenson actually constructs the narrative. He masterfully peels back these layers of mystery, almost like you're reading a detective story, slowly revealing this horrifying yet deeply human truth. Our mission today is really to follow that unraveling, piece by piece. We'll guide you through the unsettling discoveries the characters make as they come face to face with the dark secrets behind Dr. Jekyll's peculiar situation.
And to do that, we're not just relying on, the movie versions or popular ideas. We're drawing our insights directly from the full text of the novel itself, which allows us to go beyond that cultural shorthand and really try to understand Stevenson's original vision, from the very first mysterious encounter all the way to that final shocking confession. Okay, so our journey into this strange case begins with Mr. Utterson. He's a lawyer. And his very description kind of sets the tone, doesn't it? Stevenson calls him a man of a rugged countenance, never lighted by a smile, cold, scanty, embarrassed in discourse, but somehow lovable despite all that.
Exactly. And he has this approved tolerance for others. He even says, I incline to Cain's heresy, basically letting his brother go to the devil in his own way, which isn't just a throwaway line. It signals his deep tolerance, almost radical for the time, tolerance for people society might condemn. Makes him the perfect, if maybe unwitting, detective for this case.
Right, because it defies conventional morality. And he has this quiet ritual, these Sunday walks with his distant kinsman, Mr. Richard Enfield. Often they say nothing, apparently look quite dull, but they put the greatest store by these walks.
And it's on one of these seemingly mundane walks that they encounter something really unsettling, this mysterious gore in Soho. The street itself is thriving, inviting even. But this particular building is described as a sinister block, showing no window, nothing but a door.
Yeah, marked by prolonged and sordid negligence, blistered and disdained. It just stands out. Stevenson uses that analogy like a fire in a forest, but for all the wrong reasons.
Totally. It's an anomaly, a real blot on an otherwise respectable street. It hints that something is deeply wrong or hidden behind it.
And that ominous door, well, it turns out it's connected to a very odd story that Mr. Enfield recounts. He talks about this dark winter morning, maybe 3 o'clock. He sees a small man and a young girl collide at a street corner, and then the man, shockingly, just trampled calmly over the child's body and left her screaming.
Enfield calls it hellish to see, like some damn juggernaut. That image is just so chilling, isn't it? That casual, deliberate cruelty.
It really is.
And the immediate reaction to this man, Edward Hyde, wasn't just anger. It was this universal, visceral revulsion. The child's family, even a cut-and-dry apothecary, man of science, presumably rational, they were overcome with this intense desire to kill him.
Wow.
Yeah. And Hyde himself showed this black, sneering coolness, carried it off like Satan.
Yeah.
This instant, profound loathing, often without a clear reason. That's Stevenson showing inherent evil, I think, a malevolence that just is. You don't just dislike Hyde, you feel his primal urge to destroy him.
And the incident gets even stranger when Hyde offers compensation. He's willing to pay £100, which was a lot back then. Oh. And he produces a check from Cute's bank, signed with a name that Enfield recognizes as well-known and often printed. The big twist, the check was absolutely genuine.
Right, and this is where Utterson's suspicion really starts to kick in. Enfield, hearing the name, seeing the door, he comes up with this theory of blackmail house. But for Utterson, it feels like more than just blackmail. It's the first real hint of some profound hidden life. A duplicity. It makes him wonder, who on earth could be connected to such a detestable figure like Hyde? And why?
So Utterson goes home, grimly, and immediately pulls out Dr. Jekyll's will. And this isn't just any will, it's deeply disturbing. It names Edward Hyde as the sole heir, not just if Jekyll dies, but also upon his disappearance or unexplained absence for any period exceeding 3 calendar months.
Yeah, that disappearance clause is key, isn't it? It hints at something premeditated. Utterson feels this intense indignation. It offends him as a lawyer, someone who values order and, normalcy, and as a lover of the sane and customary signs of life. Before, Hyde was just a name in a story. Now Utterson has a definite presentment of a fiend. He thinks, I thought it was madness, and now I begin to fear his disgrace.
That idea of Jekyll, his respectable friend, being tangled up with this fiend is just deeply unsettling for Utterson's whole Victorian worldview.
Absolutely. His concern mounts, and it drives him to visit Dr. Lanyon, another old friend of Jekyll's.
Right, Lanyon, described as hearty, healthy, dapper, red-faced gentleman, kind of the picture of conventionality.
Exactly. And Utterson is surprised when Lanyon confirms he hasn't heard of Hyde, and then Lanyon explains their estrangement from Jekyll. It's because of Jekyll's unscientific balderdash.
Unscientific balderdash. So a clear sign Jekyll has veered into something Lanyon considers totally unacceptable, maybe even dangerous in their field.
Precisely. And the mystery just deepens for Utterson. He starts having these haunting dreams. He sees the human juggernaut trampling the child and this sinister figure standing beside a sleeping Jekyll. He feels this desperate need to see Hyde's face. He thinks it might lighten the mystery somehow.
Like if he can just put a face to the evil, maybe it becomes less terrifying, less abstract.
Maybe. It leads him to this Mr. Seek resolve, as Stevenson calls it. He starts this relentless watch at that weird Soho door.
Staking it out.
Yeah, and his patience pays off. He finally encounters Hyde, a small and very plainly dressed man whose appearance went somehow strongly against the watcher's inclination.
That's putting it mildly, I think.
Definitely. The interaction itself is strange, too. Hyde has a key to the door. He shows this brief flicker of fear, then responds coolly to Utterson. Hyde asks, "How did you know me?" And Utterson replies pointedly, "Jekyll, for instance."
Ooh, that must have hit a nerve.
It does. Gets a savage laugh and a flush of anger from Hyde. This brief exchange confirms for Utterson the link is real and deeply troubling. Hyde's anger at Jekyll's name hints at their complex, volatile relationship.
And Utterson's repulsion towards Hyde just gets stronger after actually meeting him. He describes Hyde as pale and dwarfish, with a displeasing smile, a husky whispering and somewhat broken voice.
An unnamed malformation and this feeling of something troglodytic.
Troglodytic, like primitive, cave-dwelling, emphasizing how inhuman he seems.
Exactly. Utterson even thinks, if ever I read Satan's signature upon a face, it is on that of your new friend.
Yeah.
It's a revulsion that goes beyond just physical appearance. It's like a spiritual horror.
And this meeting just deepens the sense of foreboding. Poole, Jekyll's butler, confirms Hyde has a key and mostly uses the laboratory entrance.
The laboratory. A place Jekyll, as a scientist, would consider his sanctum. Now, it's a gateway for this creature. It adds to Utterson's heavy heart and his growing fear that poor Harry Jekyll is in deep waters.
Deep waters indeed. So 2 weeks later, Utterson manages to have dinner with Dr. Jekyll himself. Jekyll is described quite differently, isn't he? Large, well-made, smooth-faced man of 50 with every mark of capacity and kindness.
But Utterson, being observant, notices Jekyll's visible discomfort when the will and Hyde are mentioned.
And Jekyll gets evasive, right?
Very. He dismisses Lanyon as a hidebound pedant, basically too rigid in his scientific views. And he claims, that he can be rid of Mr. Hyde at any moment.
A claim that doesn't age well. It really foreshadows his loss of control.
Completely. And this is where it gets really interesting, as you said earlier. Despite claiming he's in control, Jekyll makes this very strange plea to Utterson.
Yeah, he says he has a very great interest in poor Hyde.
Oh,
Poor Hyde. And he makes Utterson promise to bear with him and get his rights for him if Jekyll is taken away.
What does that tell you? He's concerned for Hyde's rights. It suggests a connection far deeper than just blackmail, even at this stage.
It's like he sees Hyde as an extension of himself or feels responsible for him somehow.
Exactly. It raises serious questions. Then, fast forward nearly a year, and things escalate dramatically. The Carew murder case.
Right. The maid witnesses Hyde brutally attacking an aged, beautiful gentleman, Sir Danvers Carew, clubbing him, trampling him with ape-like fury. Just savage.
And the key piece of evidence found at the scene. A broken cane.
Which Utterson recognizes instantly. He gave it to Jekyll years ago. It's a direct link, a symbol of Jekyll's identity, shattered and used for this monstrous act.
The police then raid Hyde's Soho house. They find luxurious rooms, but ransacked, burnt papers, and the other half of the cane. And what's chilling is how witnesses describe Hyde. Their descriptions vary wildly, but they all agree on this haunting sense of unexpressed deformity.
That vagueness is so effective, isn't it? Like, his evil is so unsettling, it defies clear description. Makes him even more nightmarish.
It really does. Then comes the incident of the letter. Jekyll looks deathly sick. He swears he's done with Hyde, we'll never see him again. He shows Utterson a letter, supposedly from Hyde. asks Utterson for advice should he give it to the police. He's worried about his own reputation.
But there's a catch with the letter.
A huge one. Utterson notices it has no postmark. It was apparently handed in, but when Utterson checks with Poole, the butler confirms no messenger came that day.
So how did the letter get there? The implication is chilling.
Utterson then has this masterstroke. He shows the letter to his head clerk, Mr. Guest, who's a handwriting expert,
And Guest compares it to an invitation from Jekyll.
and finds a singular resemblance. He says the two hands are in many points identical, only differently sloped.
Oh, wow. So the horrifying conclusion for Utterson is...
Read Jekyll forged for a murderer. This just changes everything for Utterson. It's not just blackmail anymore. It's complicity. A direct, undeniable link between the respectable doctor and this monstrous killer.
So after Hyde seems to disappear following the murder, Jekyll actually has a brief recovery.
Yeah, for about 2 months, he returns to a life of peace. Charity work, seeing friends, a fleeting moment of calm. But then, just as suddenly, he relapses into extreme seclusion.
And the change in Dr. Lanyon around this time is just shocking.
It really is. Utterson finds his old friend looking visibly bolder and older, his flesh fallen away, and there's this deep-seated terror of the mind in his eyes.
Lanyon says he's had a shock and will never recover. He refuses to even speak of Jekyll, regards him as dead.
He literally cannot bear to discuss whatever it was he witnessed. The sheer psychological trauma is immense. It foreshadows the horror of Jekyll's secret.
And Jekyll himself sends this desperate letter to Utterson, begging him to respect my silence. He writes, "I have brought on myself a punishment and a danger that I cannot name. If I am the chief of sinners, I am the chief of sufferers also." He's clearly in agony, trapped.
Lanyon then declines rapidly, takes to his bed, dies in less than 2 weeks. After the funeral, Utterson receives that sealed envelope from Lanyon, marked ominously, not to be opened till the death or disappearance of Dr. Henry Jekyll.
That phrasing again, death or disappearance, it links Jekyll's fate to this awful mystery that already killed Lanyon.
It's like an invitation to a horror beyond words.
While Utterson's grappling with all this, we get the incident at the window. He and Enfield are walking down that same street again. They see Jekyll at his laboratory window. He looks disconsolate, very low.
And as they talk to him, just for a second, this chilling transformation happens. Jekyll's face suddenly contorts with abject terror and despair. He slams the window shut. Utterson and Enfield are left pale with this answering horror in their eyes.
Just a glimpse, but it's enough to confirm their worst fears about what's happening to him.
Exactly. And the mystery reaches its absolute peak when Poole, Jekyll's butler, shows up late at night at Utterson's door. Terrified.
He's convinced of foul play, believes the doctor's been made away with, and there's some unknown thing locked in the cabinet now. This isn't just a worried servant. This is a loyal man totally broken by fear.
And he has evidence, chilling evidence. This entity in the cabinet is constantly crying out for a specific medicine, leaving written orders. The orders are in Jekyll's handwriting, but Poole notes Hyde's characteristic splutter of the pen.
Like Jekyll's writing, but struggling.
Under duress.
Something like that. And Poole recounts actually seeing the figure masked. Describes it as more of a dwarf, crying like a rat, moving like a monkey. He insists, utterly convinced, that thing was not my master.
Those animalistic descriptions really hammer home Hyde's devolution. The horror for Poole is the change in the very essence of the person in there. Utterson is finally convinced. He decides with Poole they have to break into the cabinet. They arm themselves. Utterson grabs a poker. Poole gets an axe from the surgical theater. The tension is just immense.
You can feel the dread building as they approach the cabinet. They hear this light and odd footfall inside, completely different from Jekyll's heavy tread.
And Poole reveals something even more disturbing. He says he once heard it weeping. Weeping like a woman or a lost soul, a sound that's haunted him ever since. It almost humanizes the thing for a terrifying second, which makes its monstrosity even worse.
So they get to the door. Utterson calls out, demands Jekyll show himself, and this complaining voice answers, "For God's sake, have mercy." Utterson recognizes it instantly, sends a shiver down your spine when he says, that's not Jekyll's voice, it's Hyde's.
Poole doesn't hesitate. He brings the axe down, forces the door, and from inside there's this dismal screech as of mere animal terror. It's the sound of something utterly desperate, feral, cornered.
And inside, the shocking discovery. Edward Hyde's body, sorely contorted and still twitching, dressed in Jekyll's clothes, which are way too large for him, dead by suicide, crushed file in his hand, the smell of cyanide kernels in the air, but Henry Jekyll is nowhere to be found.
Just clues left behind, Traces of chemical work, measured piles of that white salt, evidence of the experiments. Jekyll's own pious book is there, but filled with startling blasphemies scrawled in his handwriting, a visual representation of his internal war. And that cheval glass, the full-length mirror, Poole says it has seen some strange things, a silent witness to it all.
And finally, the last documents, a new will leaving everything to Utterson this time, and a note from Jekyll, instructing Utterson to first read Lanyon's narrative, then his own confession. The full truth finally is about to come out.
Which leads us back to that question. What hidden truth could be so profound, so earth-shattering, that Lanyon would die from seeing it and Jekyll would feel compelled to confess everything in such a desperate way? The answers are in those sealed documents.
Okay, so let's open them, metaphorically speaking. First, Dr. Lanyon's narrative. This is his personal account, his testimony to the impossible. He recounts getting that desperate letter from Jekyll, asking him to break into his lab and retrieve a specific drawer, containing powders, a file, and a paper book.
Lanyon details the contents meticulously. The white crystalline salt, the blood-red liquor, which he notes is pungent, contains phosphorus and some volatile ether. And the book, an ordinary account book, but filled with dates and these ominous notes. Double appears 6 times. And then chillingly, near the start, total failure. Underlined. It's not just a recipe, it's like a scientific diary of these horrifying experiments and their increasingly unstable results.
Hyde arrives at Lanyon's house exactly at midnight. Very gothic touch there. Lanyon describes him small, clothes too big, this disgustful curiosity, impatient, almost hysterical. Notes Hyde keeps glancing back into the darkness like he's afraid of being followed or seen. It paints this picture of a creature just on the edge, desperate and paranoid.
Then comes the moment of transformation, relayed with the precision of a scientist, albeit a horrified one. Hyde mixes the draft. Lanyon watches the chemical reaction. It fizzes, changes color, reddish to bright, dark purple, then fades to a watery green. And before drinking, Hyde issues this dramatic challenge to Lanyon.
Right, he asks, essentially, will you let me leave, or is your curiosity too strong? And he promises Lanyon a prodigy to stagger the unbelief of Satan.
It's a total dare, isn't it?
Yeah.
A moment of profound, almost theatrical evil, designed deliberately to shatter Lanyon's rational scientific world.
And the reveal is immediate and profound. Hyde drinks, convulses, and transforms into Henry Jekyll. Right there, before Lanyon's eyes. Lanyon's trauma is so clear in his words afterwards. My life is shaken to its roots. Sleep has left me. The deadliest terror sits by me. I shall die incredulous. It's the sheer psychological shock, isn't it? Witnessing something so fundamentally impossible.
Absolutely. It completely breaks him. It's not just physical. It's a spiritual violation that shatters his worldview. Which brings us finally to Henry Jekyll's full statement of the case, the ultimate confession. Here, Jekyll reveals his profound duplicity of life. He talks about that constant struggle between his respectable public image and his hidden, undignified pleasures he concealed with a morbid sense of shame. This is the core theme laid bare, that conflict between appearance and inner reality.
And this internal conflict, this desire to compartmentalize his life, it led him to this groundbreaking but incredibly perilous scientific quest. He genuinely believed that man is not truly one, but truly two, a really disturbing idea for his time, and he aimed to separate these two natures using his drug, an ambition born of both scientific curiosity and maybe personal desperation.
The first transformation, he describes excruciating pain, but then this liberating feeling, an unknown but not an innocent freedom of the soul. He instantly felt tenfold more wicked. He recognized his changed body, his new face as Edward Hyde, the embodiment of pure evil. And crucially, he says he looked at that ugly idol in the glass with no repugnance, rather of a leap of welcome. This too was myself.
Chilling. That's the aha moment, right? Hyde isn't some separate demon. He's an unfiltered, unrestrained part of Jekyll himself, unleashed.
Exactly. And initially, Jekyll thinks he's got it under control. He can transform at will. He uses Hyde like a mantle, a disguise, to indulge his desires without ruining his reputation. That's why he set up the Soho house, made the will benefiting Hyde, practiced forging Hyde's signature, all steps to enable the secret life.
But then comes the turning point, the terrifying loss of control. He describes waking up one morning as Hyde, spontaneously, without taking the potion.
Yeah. He realizes Hyde is growing stronger. The transformations are becoming involuntary. He needs double, even treble doses just to change back. Which really forces you to ask, what happens when that darker side, once just a tool, gains the upper hand, asserts its own will? The servant becomes the master.
The Carew murder is revisited from Jekyll's perspective, and it's even more chilling. He reveals that he, as Hyde, committed the crime with this unbridled and more furious propensity to ill. felt delight from every blow.
But the remorse afterwards, as Jekyll, is immense. It leads to that brief period of trying to live a beneficent and innocent life, trying to atone. It's that constant push and pull, the internal struggle made horrifyingly external.
But the shift becomes irreversible. That spontaneous transformation in Regent's Park in broad daylight, in public, confirms Hyde's dominance.
Right. Jekyll describes Hyde's desperate journey to Lanyon for the drug, his uncontrollable rage striking a woman. Hyde is no longer just a hidden indulgence. He's a force unleashed, completely taking over Jekyll's life.
And Jekyll's final torment is just laid bare in the confession, the constant threat of transformation. He feels himself weakening, being eaten up and emptied by fever. He even details Hyde's growing hatred for him, for Jekyll, defacing his books, destroying a portrait of his father.
Hyde isn't just evil. He's actively tormenting his creator, trying to destroy everything Jekyll valued.
And the ultimate failure, the scientific failure, becomes horrifyingly clear. Jekyll discovers his original batch of the crucial salt was impure, and that specific impurity was essential for the potion to work.
New, pure batches are useless, meaning he can no longer transform back to Jekyll. Ever. The potion that gave him freedom now traps him, condemns him to be Hyde permanently. Such a tragic irony. His scientific ambition leads directly to this inescapable nightmare.
The confession ends with Jekyll writing, knowing it's his last moment as himself. He's just waiting for Hyde to take over permanently, awaiting the inevitable end. He concludes, chillingly, "This is my true hour of death, and what is to follow concerns another than myself." Meaning, the self that was Henry Jekyll is about to cease to exist, replaced forever by the monster he unleashed. So after all that, what does this deep dive into Jekyll and Hyde really mean for us, the listeners? It's clearly more than just a, scary story. It's a profound look at the battle within.
Definitely. If you connect it to the bigger picture, it really suggests that trying to suppress our darker impulses, or even indulging them without thinking critically, well, it doesn't make them disappear. In fact, it might just give them a different, maybe more dangerous form. Allows them to grow until they become uncontrollable, just like Hyde completely overwhelmed Jekyll.
The story gives us this terrifying aha moment, doesn't it? The idea that the Hyde within us isn't just something separate to fight, it's something that can actually become us, especially if we let our hidden desires run wild or maybe ignore the ethical implications of our ambitions, scientific or otherwise. It's a stark warning.
It really is. And it forces us to ask, doesn't it? In a world where we often present such curated versions of ourselves online, managing our public personas so carefully, how much of our own duplicity of life, as Jekyll called it, are we willing to actually acknowledge? And what are the true costs, really, of denying or maybe even embracing our inner Hyde without genuine self-reflection?
That's definitely something to mull on, a powerful thought to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep being well.